Hi, everybody. It's Mark Viale from Lab415, and welcome to Lab415 Spotlight on Brand Marketing in the Modern Age. We use these spotlights to bring clarity to hot topics by inviting industry experts, startup founders, and marketing leaders to share their journey, but also all things growth.
Brands are an extension of us as human beings, right? We've created these things way back when to identify things that we were selling, things that we're putting out there in the marketplace. And what they've lost, and more accelerated loss during this age of digital, is that they are extensions of us. They're the better version of us as human beings. And so they lost pieces of that humanity, essentially, by becoming more digital, more transactional, less human. And they also, and I don't know if I blame this collectively on all the lawyers in the world, as we seem to have more of them in the United States than everybody else. They are risk averse, right? They like to take the risk out of organizations. They're often referred to as anti-marketing department, because they don't want to take on the risk of having a personality, because having a personality and a vision can be risky. My favorite quote that came out of some of the Patagonia work was this idea that Patagonia, the company, and Patagonia, the brand, are the same thing. The fact that they can say that, the fact that if they say that, everyone else goes, is that the case for everybody? And I would bet you there's a large percentage are not the case, right? And it's the corporate veil, right? We hide behind this. Well, I have a comment on that I think you'll find interesting. I think what social has done to us, collectively, is it's created that transparency. It's actually created authenticity in a real way, right? You cannot make false promises and put stuff out there that's such a massively fabricated lie, because social will call you out on it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of probably a cautionary tale that's, somebody in business school right now is like writing a paper on or something. But definitely, I've seen this at a lot of places I've worked where you have a product that's really kind of inherently viral, like Firefox, even back in the days when it was cool, or Facebook back in the days when it was cool, or whatever. And it just spreads around on its own, and you kind of fall victim to the thought of like, we don't need to think about branding. That's silly. It's a waste of time or money or whatever. And it kind of it's this situation like if you have a garden that's growing really well and you don't tend it, it just gets eventually kind of like overgrown, and like the weeds kind of, it gets kind of tangled or whatever. So I think it's really important to be thoughtful about, again, knowing who you are and making sure you're honoring that. One piece of advice I would give on that front is to really not think about it as like performance marketing over here and brand over here, but to just realize that your brand is everything about you. It's your product, it's your marketing, it's the way people talk about you, when you're not even doing anything. It's just sort of the way abstractly people feel about your product. And if you're able to create a situation where people just sort of, maybe for reasons they can't even articulate, they just kind of like you, that's going to make this people click on your thing versus somebody else's. I will say I just finished a freelance job at Airbnb, and I was really impressed with just how seriously they took brand and quality of creative and design. And I think it's part of the culture there that people just really like. There was like, is this photo Airbnb enough, or is this, and a lot of little details were really sweated to make sure that things felt a certain way. And they really, to my earlier point, they know who they are. And I think that's probably starts with their CEO.
Prime example, yes, you can throw a discount at someone, but are you really going to see them re-engage with your brand in another 3 months, 6 months, etc.? Unless you do, like, let's say a standard like purchase retargeting trigger where it's like, oh, you show them a 20% off, which that's where it starts to become the good old scenario of a CFO. Like, hey, when I'm looking at cost per acquisition versus cost to actually acquire a consumer, and then from there, like the value they're really driving from a revenue standpoint, was these efforts worth it to throw a discount, let's say during Black Friday? sometimes they think that you have competing goals when really you're just trying to resonate with the consumer, again,
Yes.
depending on like the objective, the messaging, and the value that you're trying to drive long term.
Really
Like
good.
we're not having competing focuses, rather doing performance or create. We're all just trying to get closer to the consumer. I was going to quickly say, I think one thing I've noticed in the last couple of roles that I had is bringing both my creative and brand partner counterparts into the fold in terms of intelligence. So it doesn't feel like you're just churning assets and that's it. So like as an example, I've noticed some creatives don't realize how impactful the work that they're doing in terms of like, oh, like I didn't realize this Instagram asset was driving like 80% of the overall like web traffic.